Okay, so I want to let you guys know off the bat, I am not reading the current Zeb Wells run on The Amazing Spider-Man. I read the first couple of issues, and quite frankly, that was enough for me. But I have been keeping up with it through osmosis via Twitter outrage and YouTube thumbnails, so I think I have the overall gist of what's been going on. And the core problem with the Zeb Wells run on The Amazing Spider-Man isn't an issue that's exclusive to this run. Because I think the inherent problem with modern Spider-Man comics is actually what made the character a massive success in the first place. The story of Peter Parker and Spider-Man is the ultimate coming-of-age tale. And a large reason why Peter Parker was such an endearing character for many readers over the years was because in watching his coming-of-age journey, a lot of people identified with him as a very relatable character. His day-to-day problems were things that everybody could empathize with, because we've all, at some point in our lives, been there. Everybody's lost a loved one that they were close with. Everybody's been caught up in a situation that made them either late for work, or late for school, or late for a date. Everybody's fumbled a baddie at least once. Everybody's gotten overwhelmed and lost their temper, and then had to deal with the consequences of their actions after the fact. And everybody's hit a point in their lives where they've just felt tired. I think it's more than safe to say that everybody's been there. But much like Spider-Man, even in the face of all of that, you pick yourself up and you keep going. And that's what made Spider-Man such a uniquely relatable hero, especially in the time when he was created, where there weren't really a lot of characters like that. And it's that relatability that skyrocketed Spider-Man into being one of the most popular superheroes in comics. But that's where the problem begins, because with Spider-Man, specifically Peter Parker, being the mascot of the Marvel Entertainment Corporation, this puts Marvel in a very tricky spot where, given the coming-of-age thesis the character was conceived under, Peter Parker would eventually have to come of age. He has to get married, he has to have children, and his time as Spider-Man has to come to an end. Because that's the moment when he comes of age. And I've said it before and I'll say it again, but Spider-Man is not the story of a kid being a superhero. That's a description that fits a lot of other characters, but not really Spider-Man. Spider-Man is the story of a boy becoming a man because he is a superhero. And once he realizes that goal, that's when Spider-Man is no longer an institution in his life, and that's when he gets to quit being Spider-Man. But Marvel can't let that happen because, once again, Spider-Man, specifically Peter Parker, is the mascot of the company. And this is a conflict that Marvel's been fighting ever since the mid-1990s. They tried to send Peter Parker off into the sunset and replace him with his clone Ben Reilly, but people didn't like that, so Marvel ended up bringing Peter Parker back. And then JMS and John Romita Jr. had a stint on the character in the early to mid-2000s, and that whole run is about Peter, age 30, reconciling the fact that if he can't not be Spider-Man, then at least maybe Spider-Man has to take on a different role in his life, and maybe a different role in New York. And that's when Peter joins the Avengers, and that's when he becomes a big-time superhero, which, in theory, I'm against, but I like the way JMS handled the idea. But it was also creeping on territory where Peter was getting a little too old? Or, much rather, too mature, I guess would be a better way of putting it. Peter and MJ were back in full swing. Aunt May now knows that Peter is Spider-Man, and Peter was approaching a new stage in his adult life. So then we get One More Day, which is like a soft reboot, and the character is retrograded back to where he was in like 1977, back when he was a single college student, but he's still the same age that he was supposed to be in current time. So now you have this 38-year-old man who's running around acting like an emotionally stunted 18-year-old, and it's just weird. And what's more depressing is that the Venture Brothers made a satirical pastiche of a Spider-Man type character named the Brown Widow, and he's basically a version of Peter Parker who's a 40-year-old perpetual college student who never grew up, and he is really pathetic. But the joke isn't funny anymore, because that's just what Spider-Man is now. And all of this, at the end of the day, is the result of Spider-Man being too big for his own good. Because now, the character is stuck running in place, never truly growing or changing because he's not allowed to have an ending. Which not only is antithetical to the idea behind the character, but it also just undercuts everything that made him the endearing pop culture sensation that he once was in the first place. But, as the hippity hop kids in college like to say, it is what it is.
What the dude?